Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Empyrion. I am 7-foot dust bunny. Yes, I am floating in the air because I'm in guard mode. And today we are going to check out a top 5 recommended, I wouldn't say the absolute top 5, but recommended starter SVs. And over there will be some honourable mentions a bit later on. So actually there's going to be a total of 10, but we're going to start off with the main top 5. For which we are going to start with this little beauty. So this is our first little beauty here, and she is the Dark Graduate by Bigfeet. She's quite a pretty looking thing. I'm not sure I 100% agree with the camo there, but I would have preferred to go just for all black, but there's nothing to stop you getting your paint gun out and sorting that out later on. I love the use of this cockpit. I want to find use for it in builds I've done, but I never quite seem to make it work. Very nice concealed landing gear there. And inside we have a fridge, an armor vessel, an armor locker, an O2 station, and even a constructor. All of these vessels will be level 7 unlock. So without further ado, we will get in and take a little look here. So if we go to the statistics, a level 7 unlock with relatively modest material requirements. Obviously the iron's no problem, carbon substrate, copper, silicon, all fairly achievable. Neodymium and cobalt might be a bit harder to come by, and the titanium rods, you might have to hit a POI or two to get this one down. We've got a lot of lift on the go, a lot of thrust, and plenty of pitch and yaw, and generally looks good. Now if we have a check out of the Dark Graduate here, we have 5,250 in a storage container and 1,000 for the ammo and a fridge on board. Plus don't forget you've got a constructor, which is always handy. On top of that we have weapons wise, it is a tier 2, which is where the titanium rods come in, but also has 2 rocket launchers which are dumbfire and 4 Gatling guns, which is always very handy. And in all honesty, she flies like a bit of a beast. We'll move that down a bit. I didn't close the lid up, so I didn't give her a best look. Pitch and roll could be a little bit stronger, but generally a pretty good flyer. I didn't put any weaponry in there. No weapons, no guns. Now, one of the acid tests I want to do on this is going to be, as we're hovering over here, I didn't hook up a Wi-Fi, so we're gonna have to land a second. Oh, nice smooth landing there. So with that, we will just pick up something I've prepared for here, which is to we can max out the carry weight. There we go, and see how she flies under full load. Manages still a respectable 69 in speed and handles pretty damn well, I've got to admit, which is pretty impressive. We've done a full load of Promethean. I know it's not the heaviest thing, and essentially if you use alien armor blocks or something, it would actually be heavier, but in all honesty, I consider this as a starter CV, and you're probably going to be going around picking up some mining. Now generally can't stop so well when you're under full load. Generally I find that for a starter SV these days is what I tend to go for over the use of an HV, because it's so much quicker to get around, it's much handier for attacking POIs, I like the fact that this offers some protection to the thrusters here. It's very good. Obviously you're wide open at the rear, but hopefully you don't want to be taking too much damage there. But all in all, a good looking ship there with the cargo box and ammo boxes, O2, fridge, armor locker, detector and wireless connector. She's definitely a nice touch. Next up we have the Fatman. The Fatman, this is the level 7 version. There are various versions of this available with warp drive and alike. The Fatman is by JoeSloeMoe. You can try saying that 10 times fast after having a couple. I like the look of this. It is obviously a little bit boxy, but with the boxy comes some real nice benefits as well. With it being a bit boxy, it's got space. It's got a lot of space. We'll start off, just take a quick look here. It's cheaper on the resources than the Graduate, and I believe it is only... oh no, it is still tier 2. Sorry, I did think it was tier 1. It's only got the 2 Gatling guns, still got detector, but it's got 2 milligun turrets on top, which is very handy. Lighter on the titanium and the cobalt. No constructor in this one. There is a version with a constructor, but I believe that one is actually level 10 for some reason. But you can get a version with the constructor, which will be available through the link I'll provide. It is also linked. And that requires, I think, an extra 30 cobalt and a few basic resources to get going. So, one of the other benefits about this ship is, I believe, down here in the back, we'll God mode our way through. It is quite expandable. There's room for an extra core. I don't know where on earth the constructor would have gone. Sorry, I'm dashing around inside the thing now, just trying to look for the extra space. I think that's actually where a constructor would go. There is a version with a warp drive. I don't know if that has less carry capacity. I haven't checked. But there is a space there for you to bung a constructor in, if you've got it. The one thing that can be said for having a constructor at this point in the game is if you can bring this in without having to have brought in a small constructor already, you can actually manufacture your ammunition, which is something you can't do without it. So we'll load up. We've got the bootstrap, we've got the constructor in and constructor out, which I'm not sure I would actually do. I would probably want to personally replace those with cargo containers, with cargo extensions. But you've got a lot of storage capacity here. You've got 10, well, nearly 11,000 twice over. So that is a good 22 plus the others, nearly 23,000. 10,000 for ammo, which is respectable. And if we load this up, again, we seem to have gone straight back into God mode. Comedy standings, there we go. No, are we maxed out? Yes. I don't know quite how I turn God mode back on there. There we go. Right, we'll load it up and we'll see how it flies loaded up. Okay, fairly heavy, only managing 53. Still got a lot of roll. I didn't actually try it without it. Oh, a bit tricky on the sideways. Certainly don't do a barrel roll when fully loaded. I think the Dark Graduate could have managed a barrel roll, but I don't think the Fatman can manage a barrel roll here. In fact, he's quite sluggish when fully loaded. Oh, and I'm coming down a bit hard. We will give it its fair dues and give it a quick flight without load, because I'm expecting, yeah, takes off like a bat out of hell when not loaded. Again, I think a barrel roll might be pushing it though. Oh no, we're alright. Fairly heavy, but I like it. The only downside I can see with this vessel, which I have used a couple of times in personal playthroughs, is that I like to go up to the helixes and just fly in with the nose of the ship, nose in, and grab the loot container and run away again, which would seem like a good way to do things. I can imagine on the Graduate that would be hugely possible, because you can just walk down a nose like this. With this one, I think you would actually be stuck and you wouldn't be able to get in there and actually reach the container, which is generally a good call. So that's the only downside with this one. But in terms of actually going off and mining, especially going up and mining a few asteroids to get extra materials, this would be an absolute godsend in the early game. Again, this was still a level 7. Like I said, resources were fairly good. Lift's pretty strong, as I'm sure you can imagine, with all that carry capacity, but slightly lower on thrust in the other directions. And pitch and yaw suffers a bit, and obviously is a bit tricky when she's fully loaded. If you load it up with Neo, I suspect it would struggle to get off the ground. Next up is a classic probably a lot of people know already. This is the Nightshade Mark VI from Spanj, which many people will know for his masses of content on Empyrion. I love the design of this ship. It's very sexy looking, lots of little glowies, and of course, we'll go into guard mode in a second, obligatory piping, which is a Spanj trait. Nice use of the decoration blocks here. I believe as well that it would probably actually be achievable to get this to nose in to one of the helixes to steal the loot. This thing does come pretty well loaded. Again, it is a level 7 unlock. There is no constructor, but it has 2 GATs, a detector, which are always essential. It's very cheap on the resources because there's a lot of carbon substrate, copper, silicon and iron, all in fairly easy to reach quantities, and the CPU is only tier 1. It's well within CPU limit, so it's going to be quite efficient. Thrust wise, it's got a reasonable amount of lift. Cargo wise, let's have a look here. Cargo wise, the Nightshade, we have only 1,600 there. 1,600 on one ammo container, 1,600 on the other. So you can probably muster, if you use 1 for ammo, you can probably muster about 3,000, 3,200, which isn't going to be vast as some of the others. One of the big pluses of this ship though is it is quite upgradable, I believe. If you look in here, there are spaces for constructors and for shields and all sorts like that. I think you can even squeeze a warp drive in here, and she can be upgraded. Like I say, the only downside with that is going to be the lack of carry capacity for the early game when you're going to want to mine around. I do also like this little bit of glass over the spotlight here at the front, because the spotlight's always a bit that gets shot out and it's quite annoying. We'll take her for a quick test fly. So she's pretty fast, nicely moves around. Now if we did load her up just with, and in all fairness just with the 1, I'm sure she's going to fly pretty nice. I don't know what's going to happen if we're a little bit unfair here to Spanj, which, you know, he's well known, so we got to be a little bit unfair to him. And load it up completely. So you're only actually getting about 1,000 Promethium in there, just over it. Oh, I gotta stop pressing that button. It still flies pretty well, to be honest. No real drop in speed. Not sluggish. And I'm pretty sure I could almost still take a barrel roll like it. Oh, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. Oh no, come on, we can make a barrel roll. Yep, we can make the barrel roll. Whoa. Little low to the ground there. But all in all, a very good starter ship. And ultimately quite upgradable. And you could definitely probably slap a Gatling there on top or something as well. A nice little turret, which would be a very nice touch. And that is the Nightshade from Spanj. I will provide links to all of these in the description below, so you can get all of the workshop pages for these in the description. This little beauty is the Skaar-Hauler-MK1 T2 by Darth Zaphod, if I'm saying that correctly. So it's quite a compact little ship, but it does pack quite a few goodies. It comes with all the standard stuff that most of them have, like armor locker, fridge, Wi-Fi O2 dispenser and detector. No rare resources again, I believe. It's pretty much just iron, carbon substrate, copper, silicon. Relatively quick build time, 2 GATs and a detector again. Very similar lift thrust to a lot of the others, level 7 unlock. Again, this is going to be a tier 1 CPU. And all in all, pretty tidy ship. I'm pretty sure as well, with this one, there's a good chance you can nose this in to a helix. Be a bit tight, but I think it would work. You would probably get it into the helix and be able to go in there and get the loot. It's very nippy off the line, moves very quickly. All in all, we'll drop back out of guard mode a second and load her up, because I believe carry capacity wise, the Skaar-Hauler has a whopping nearly 8,000 cargo, but it's a shared cargo and ammo box, so you are going to have no ammo if you have your full load on. Let's see how it goes. Oh, struggles a bit, but does fly. Again, maybe pushing my luck if I try a barrel roll. I definitely think I'm pushing my luck if I try a barrel roll. I don't think a barrel roll's on the cards. We can try. Oh, we're coming down pretty low there. Oh, that's a bit tight. Having said that, you know, we're asking a lot of a little level 7 ship here to do that, and with this whopping carry capacity for such a cheap ship, it's an absolute bargain. Very good for an early start on a basic planet where you can't really pick up the cobalt easily. Oh my lord. Because on the more difficult planet starts you can pick up cobalt, and you can probably get a couple of titanium rods fairly easily for some of the other ships. But on the basic planets, it would be a lot more difficult, and this would be an absolute winner. You have access to your fridge, your armor locker, your cargo, and your O2 all at the back here. It's a really nice little compact design. As with all these ships, it's not, you know, none of them are really big fighters. You can probably take the basics of a POI on, but you got to be careful, and you're going to lose blocks. You take on something big, you're going to get blown out of the sky. but nonetheless a very nice ship, and something I haven't actually used this. I've found this on the workshop, done a few bits of testing with it, but I really like the Skaar. Just again, yeah, that was Darth Zaphod. So this is a bit of last but not least shameless self-promotion. This is my own one. This is the Sdb Scout Mark II, which has had a bit of an upgrade. It's okay. It's fairly comparable to all the others. I wouldn't say it's the best. You got your fridge, you got an O2 there, you got an armor locker, no constructor again. We have got a cargo container where we can take 6,000, and we have a separate armor locker ammo container which can take about 1,200, just shy. And again, she's a fairly decent flyer when empty, which will just give you the run off. Do that so we'll get a bit better view. Fairly decent. At least can do a barrel roll unloaded, but I will admit quite openly here, we'll try it, but I'm not comfortable with the idea of a barrel roll fully loaded, because you can take the load, but she is a little bit sluggish under that load. So we'll load her up. I'll just check I'm out of guard mode a second. There we go. And I just went back in. There we go. I gotta stop pressing G. So we will go to the Scout and load her up fully. And we can fly, but we are down to 55 as a maximum, and I'm telling you, it is sluggish. But you know, it's a level 7 ship, what do you expect? And I don't think I'm even going to attempt to barrel roll. Oh, well, it's my ship, I might as well take the mick out myself. So barrel. Oh yeah, so yeah, that's the problem with my ship. You can't barrel roll her when fully loaded. That's not gonna happen. And oh, there we go. Yep. That's what happens if you try to barrel roll when you're fully loaded. Oh god. No, that's what happens if you attempt to barrel roll when you're fully loaded. Because I did do a full survival setup for this to make sure it was relatively fair. And yeah, as you can see, there are some Zirax wandering around. We're on the edge of Zirax territory. So yeah, that was a little unexpected surprise there. So that was it for the top 5. I wouldn't call them in any particular order. I think probably the graduates got the most maneuverability under all circumstances. The Fatman's got the most carry capacity. The Nightshade certainly has the most upgradability. The Skaar has great carry capacity, great value for money, and wow, it's a really good early ship. So, and my one, which is somewhere over there, I'm not going to go and pick it up just now. Also, very similar to the Skaar. Good value for money. I didn't actually show you how much that one costs, so we'll just come in here and dig it out a second. The Scout is, again, very cheap, very similar to the Skaar. Again, 28 build time. Really generally only costs only takes 28 minutes to build, And oh, the only bad thing I need to mention is the CPU efficiency, which is down at 91. We will just add this to the factory a second and spawn ourselves a new one. So we can just bring it back in, and I can just quickly yoink, yoink. There we go, new one. So there, we can just show the stats for it. The lift isn't quite as much, but a bit more maneuverability. So it's a trade-off there. It's pretty close all around. But that was it for the main 5. Now we've got some honourable mentions, which I would always want to chuck in. There is the Skaar-Hauler. So the Skaar-Hauler is by TheScriptHD. This is actually, I believe, this is also, is this level 7? I can't remember now if it's level 7 or level 10. This is level 7. It's a bit heavier on the resources. 39 titanium rods, still 10 neodymium, 10 cobalt, so no constructor with this one, but a bit heavier on the other ingots. It has got Gatling guns, milligun turrets, which is great. However, the great thing about this one, this has absolutely monstrous capacity. It has a 27,793 cargo controller, along with some other cargo boxes. So if we just come out, go out of God mode a second and load it up, I would be very interested to see if she will fly. Excuse me one moment while I just acquire some fuel for it. Yoink. There we go. Problem solved. So, amazingly, she lifts it. I wasn't expecting that. I wouldn't try it on a 4G planet. But, amazingly, under full thrust, which I think here you've got maximum lift, and if you turn off maximum lift, yeah, I think she's going to fall to the ground. But I think if you turn on the maximum lift, the statistics will show, yeah, she will lift it. So that is an amazing lift capacity for an early game SV, especially at level 7. It's definitely one I will consider in an upcoming Let's Play of Empyrion. Ooh, I was stuck inside my own head. The other great thing about this is the Skaar-Hauler has amazing upgradability. It's got a space for a constructor, nicely labelled, a space for T3 extenders, a space for a shield, which you can nicely cover over, and a space for a warp drive and a pentaxid tank. And it's got good ammo capacity. But all in all, that is pretty amazing. So this is one, while it wouldn't be for me a full early game because of the additional resources it would require, if you've actually gone out and got yourself an HV early on and you can manage to scrounge these, mainly the titanium rods, then you are laughing, and this thing will serve you well. It's not going to be a big fighter, because I suspect, well, I think if you gave it maximum lift and took all the weight out of it, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt here, because I didn't give it a go, and take all this out. I bet she moves then. Oh yeah. And we'll probably get shot at by some Xerax. Yeah, I mean, moves pretty quick there with that build. So yeah, I really like this one. It's definitely an honourable mention for me because it's certainly on the list of suitable SVs for early build. Right, next up is the Mule Mark I. The Mule Mark I is by FilbertFarmer. FilbertFarmer? Yeah, FilbertFarmer, which I love the name. This has quite a host of 4 GATs. The Mule is pretty compact, and if I remember rightly, she's pretty damn cheap. An absolute bargain. Oh no, not quite an absolute bargain. With 40 neodymium and 60 cobalt, so a bit more expensive actually. She's a tier 2 CPU. She is stacked with 4 Gatling guns and 4 rocket launchers, as well as a detector. Pretty maneuverable, pretty high thrust ratings. Just check all that, turn the power on a second. The other thing this one has, which a lot of the others don't have, is she's already loaded up with constructor. Generally, the cargo capacity on it is pretty low, which is the only real bad thing about it. This to me is really a get from A to B ship. I would probably take these out and try and replace them with the cargo container or extend one of the cargo containers. I do feel this is an honourable mention just because it's nifty, it can get you round quick. It's nice sort of early attack ship really, level 7, and it could do some serious damage. But this is not going to carry your resources around. This is really take it out for a fight. Because she's fast. And very maneuverable. So if you want an early fighter ship, and then you come back in with your HV to pick up the pieces, or come back in with your hauler to pick up the pieces, it's definitely worthwhile. I'm not sure how many hits it could take, because obviously not shielded, so you don't want to take too many hits. But all in all, a very nice ship. Nice design. Nice loadout. Fairly expensive is the only issue for me. And the reason it's an honourable mention is that if I had those resources, I would probably be getting one of the other 5 over there instead. So next up, we have the SD Wisp. The SD Wisp is by Adonnay, sorry. I believe it is CPU compliant. No, it is not. So I am going to wipe this one. I believe this was CPU compliant and I did not check. So my apologies. We're going to skip over the SD Wisp. Now, next up on the honourable mentions is someone who can always be relied on to make a beautiful ship. And that is Mr. Jrandall. If you've been playing Empyrion and you don't know who Jrandall is, you might have been living under a rock. He just does such beautiful builds. Unfortunately for this, the ship has, oh no, I was going to say limited, but not so limited, cargo capacity at 7,000. It is a very beautiful ship. It's got 4 Gatling guns and a detector. It is dirt cheap to start off with, and she's got good lift, fairly decent maneuverability, as always. Level 7, tier 1 CPU and CPU compliant, 100%. No issues there, and I'm pretty sure she'll fly at speed. And yeah, very tidy. Now, I'm just interested to see if Jrandall has stuck in any... No, there's no thrust limitations there. I was just checking because I noticed that we weren't going as fast. Her max speed is only 47, but she has good lift capacity. So we'll just test that quickly by dropping down and picking up some Promethium, because I forgot to put Wi-Fi on a landing pad. Oh, That's in the ammo bay, so we'll be nice. We won't put it in the ammo bay. We'll put it all in the cargo box, and we'll check the lift. Oh, really struggling there. I thought Jrandall would have absolutely tested this. He must have tested it because it does actually lift off with a full load of Promethium, but my goodness, that is only just, and you are right at the edge of capacity there. It's a great cheap early ship with good capacity, lovely looking ship. It's got the extra GATs, which is brilliant, but for me it's just a bit too sluggish when it comes to fully loaded. It would leave you in a lot of trouble, and again, this is where one of your ships over here is more likely to be your go-to. But excellent ship again there from Jrandall, links provided below. Now, last but not least will be the SLV Beethoven. This is by CrazyZ, another great builder who I think everyone who plays Empyrion's probably heard of or grabbed the build by CrazyZ at some point. And we'll have a quick look at what we've got on board. You've got a cargo controller which gives you about 2.5, well, just over 2,500. A very light ammo controller and a fridge. I'll turn the power on. Just 2 GATs. Pretty cheap. Must have a constructor on board with that. I believe that looks like it's tier, no, it is tier 1, but it's almost certainly got a mobile constructor on board, which is always a big plus, which quite a few of the ones over the other side do lack. And I would say she probably moves. Looking at the statistics there, I would say this is probably pretty tight in terms of fighting abilities. One of the other benefits of this ship for early use is that it has a passenger seat in the back, so if you are playing co-op, this is a great way to move around. Or if you start on different planets playing on a server, it might also be a good way to meet up with one of your friends in space. Doesn't have a warp drive for obvious reasons. It would not be a level 7 unlock if it did, but it can do a lot. I will try it under load a second. We will just load it up. Oh, that's you always keep your Promethium in the fridge. We'll just load it up. She'll fly. I didn't have any doubt she would fly there. I mean, the constructor is always a very good element to me for it, but it's something, I'll be honest, I had to forego on my own build, because even without the constructor, with the extra GAT, I'm struggling for CPU. To keep it at tier 1, you'd have to push tier 2, which would end up on the titanium rods. So at the moment, this is where the graduate is probably the winner for me. While it costs the titanium rods, it's got the constructor, it's got everything, and that is why it's a tier 2, which does make it that harder to get, which leaves you with the options of some of the others if you can't. There's always the opportunity to start with one of these and then move up to some of these over here. I will do a later video where I will cover some slightly more mid-tier SVs and probably some starter HVs at some point as well. I hope you enjoyed this quick little review of my sort of top builds that I enjoy playing with, and you'll join me again for one of the later videos. So I will say, I'm going to fall down and break my leg. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe as always, and join me again next time. Check out the people, their links are in the description below. Thanks a lot.